All right, so can we really teach AI to play nice? Like, it seems every day there's some news about AI getting smarter and smarter, but what about more cooperative, more, well, trustworthy? You send over some really cool research about this. Something about AI agents learning to actually work together, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a paper called Cultural Evolution of Cooperation Among LLM Agents.
Hmm.
And it looks at how AI, powered by those large language models, learn to cooperate in, like a virtual game.
Oh, so we're just throwing AI into a simulation and seeing if they can figure it out. Okay, I'm in. Tell me more.
Well, the researchers used a game called the donor game. So imagine each AI agent starts with like some resources.
Okay.
Every round,
Okay.
they get randomly paired up. One's the donor, one's the recipient. And the donor can choose to give some resources to the recipient, knowing it'll get doubled for the recipient, or they can just hold on to everything.
So it's like be generous and hope for the best later on, or just be selfish. Kind of like, should I share my last slice of pizza or not? It's a tough one.
Hmm, exactly. Like real world stuff, right?
Right.
Where you got to work together, but there's always that temptation to just, be selfish. And that's what this study's all about. Can AI get over that?
Gotcha. So how does this virtual society of AI actually like change over time?
Yeah.
Does it?
Well, they ran these simulations over many generations of these AI agents,
Mm.
and the ones that ended up with more resources. So basically, the ones that cooperated those got to survive, and they got to like pass on their strategies to the next
Oh,
generation.
I get it. So it's like survival of the fittest, but for being nice. That's so cool. So it's not just one interaction. It's like learning from your parents or, from society. That makes sense. So who are these AI contestants? Which ones did they test?
Okay, so they tested three big ones: Claude 3.5 Sonnet, Gemini 1.5 Flash, and GPT 4.0. Think of them as like different personalities in this big AI experiment. And get this, the results were pretty surprising.
Okay, spill the tea. What happened? Who was the most cooperative?
Okay, so Claude 3.5, that was like the superstar. It just kept getting better and better at cooperating, even figured out ways to punish the AI agents that weren't contributing. Some of the simulations got to almost perfect cooperation. They got so many resources by the end.
Wow, hold on. So Claude learned not just to cooperate, but to like enforce the rules. Okay, that's impressive. What about the other two? Did they do anything cool?
Well, GPT 4.0, that one struggled. Their societies ended up with way less by the end. And Gemini, kind of in between, showed some promise, but nothing like Claude.
So, different personalities with different approaches to cooperation. Interesting. Did they figure out like what made Claude so good at this? Was it just luck?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. They found that like the initial randomness of the strategies was really important. Like there's a tipping point. If the AI starts off with a certain level of like cooperative tendencies, then boom, you get a flourishing society. But if they start off too selfish, well, it kind of goes downhill from there.
So, even AI needs a bit of good luck to get on the right path. That's kind of a mind-blowing thought. Makes you think about like initial conditions, not just for AI, but for anything really.
For sure. And to make things even more interesting, they added something new to the game: punishment. The AI agents could actually spend some of their resources to take away from others, like a penalty for not playing fair.
Oh, adding consequences. I like it. Did that change how they played?
Oh, yeah. So for Claude 3.5, it actually made them even better at cooperating. They got really good at like identifying the free riders and punishing them. But, and this is where it gets weird, for Gemini, it totally backfired. They actually cooperated less.
Whoa, hold on. That's so strange. It's like trying to be too strict and then everyone just
Yeah.
rebels. It makes you think about, designing systems that encourage cooperation, whether it's AI or even like human societies.
Yeah, totally. And when you look at the strategies these AI agents came up with, it's like watching evolution in action. Some of them, especially Claude's, got so complex, like they started analyzing past behavior to predict future actions, almost like how we judge someone based on, their track record.
That's wild. It's like AI is learning to read social cues. Can you give me like some specific examples? I want to know what these AI masterminds came up with.
Yeah, for sure. Like the researchers actually gave some examples in the paper and the extra stuff. Like Claude started doing this thing where it factored in, like not just its own past interactions with a partner, but also how that partner had treated others.
So it was like keeping tabs on who was naughty or nice. That's kind of funny and a little creepy. It really is like AI mirroring how we act, but in a totally weird way.
Right. And to like see this whole evolution thing, the researchers included some like really cool visuals. Figure 6, I think it was. It shows how donations changed across the generations. You can actually see the cooperation happening, especially for Claude. the more generous AI, they like survived more and passed on their strategies. Almost like cooperation became like a cultural norm.
It's like a time-lapse video of civilization, but instead of humans building cities, it's AI sharing like digital pizza. It's kind of crazy how these simple rules can lead to such like complicated behavior. You mentioned they also like changed some other things in the game, right? What else did they try?
So yeah, remember the trace length?
Refresh my memory.
How much info the donor AI gets about like the recipient's past behavior?
Hmm.
They messed with that to see, how important that history was.
Right, right. Longer trace, more info, like a better reputation score. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did changing it mess things up?
Well, it turns out that context is like super important. For both Claude and Gemini, shorter traces meant like less cooperation. They need that memory to figure out who to trust.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if you're lending money to a friend, but you have no idea if they've like paid anyone back before, you'd probably be more hesitant, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They also played with the donation multiplier.
Okay.
That's like how much the recipient's stuff increases when they get a donation. They tried different ones to see if the AI cared about the potential rewards.
So basically, they made cooperation more or less profitable. Did it like throw the AI off?
It's actually really interesting because like the specific numbers changed, but the big trends stayed pretty much the same. Like Claude 3.5 still tended to, evolve those cooperative societies, even when the immediate payoff wasn't so obvious.
So even when they like moved the goalposts, Claude still figured it out. Does that mean
Mm.
something like fundamental about how it, processes information compared to the others?
It might. Like it suggests that Claude isn't just about the short-term gains. It seems to be getting a more like nuanced understanding of the benefits of cooperation, even when it's not immediately rewarding.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. It's like it's internalizing the idea that cooperation itself is like valuable, regardless of the payoff. It's making me rethink how we define intelligence, not just in AI, but maybe even in ourselves.
That's a really deep point, and it brings us to the big question here. If AI can learn to cooperate in these simulations, what does that mean for us in the real world? Can we actually teach AI to cooperate with humans, not just other AI?
Right, because like at the end of the day, we're not AI, right? We're all messy and emotional and stuff. How do we bridge that gap? How do we make sure AI cooperates with us on our terms in our world?
That's like the million-dollar question. And it's something the researchers, they say it needs more research. They talk about aligning AI goals with human values.
Mm.
It's not just about like building smart AI. It's about building AI that's, good for us.
So it's not enough to just throw AI into a simulation and hope for the best, right? We have to be way more intentional about like how we design these systems, how we encourage cooperation, and how we make sure their goals are, aligned with ours. It's a big responsibility.
Totally. And it makes us think about what we value as a society, right?
Mm.
What kind of future we want to build with AI. It's a conversation we need to have. Like everyone, ethicists, policymakers, researchers, everyday people.
I think you're right. We often get so caught up in the cool tech stuff, but we forget that AI is like a tool, right? A reflection of our choices.
Yeah, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. We need to be like really careful with this tech. Make sure that as AI gets smarter, it also gets more aligned with, our vision of a good and fair world.
This is making me think about how we cooperate in our own lives. Like we all have those moments where we're tempted to be selfish, right? But when we choose to cooperate, we not only help ourselves, but we also create a more like positive and productive environment for everyone.
I love that connection. It shows that this research isn't just about like building better AI. It's also about understanding ourselves better.
Yeah.
Understanding how cooperation works in our societies.
Okay, so we've covered a lot, right?
Mhm.
Donor game, different AI, evolution of cooperation, the importance of like context and incentives.
Mm.
But I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so much more to explore. Like, we didn't even talk about how they analyzed individual strategies or how they like visualize those cooperative norms emerging or the whole punishment thing.
Oh, right. We haven't even gotten to the punishment part. That's a whole other like rabbit hole. I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed, to be honest.
I get it. This stuff is like really dense. But for those of you who want to go deeper, we've got links to the paper and the code in the show notes.
Yeah, check those out if you're feeling brave. But before you disappear down that rabbit hole, let's take a minute to like think about what we've learned. What really stood out to you? What are you taking away from this?
Honestly, for me, it's just how far AI cooperation research has come. Like even a few years ago, this would have been, sci-fi stuff. To see AI actually learning this like complex social stuff, it's pretty amazing.
I totally agree. It's mind-blowing. But it also makes you realize, like, how much we still don't know. We've been talking about these AI agents like they're just, like us, making plans, gossiping, punishing. But do we really get what's happening in those, like, algorithms? Are they really cooperating, or is it just, like, a trick?
Yeah, that's the question, right? We've seen that these language models can do things that look like cooperation, but we don't really know what's going on under the hood.
Yeah.
It's like we taught a parrot to say please and thank you, but does it really understand what it means?
That's a perfect analogy. So it brings us back to that big question, right? If we don't even know how AI is making decisions, how can we be sure it'll cooperate with us out in the real world, where
Yeah.
the stakes are, like, way higher?
That's where it gets, really tough. One thing is to focus on designing systems that are like transparent so we can at least try to see the AI's thought process. And we need to be super careful about the data we use to train them. If we want AI to cooperate with humans, it needs to learn from, human examples, not just from playing games.
So it's not just about teaching them the rules, it's like teaching them the unwritten rules of, like, human society, the values and all that. It's a huge task.
Exactly. It's like a whole new way of thinking about AI. We
Yeah.
got to move beyond seeing it as just a tool and start thinking about it as like a potential partner, someone
Yeah.
we can work with to build a better future.
I like that. A partner, not just a tool. It reminds me that, the future of AI isn't set in stone. We're creating it right now with every choice we make.
That's right. And the researchers in this paper, they left us with this really thought-provoking question. It's like, if AI can learn to cooperate, how can we be sure it cooperates with us, not just with each other?
It's a scary thought, but also kind of exciting. It reminds us that we're not just, like, watching this AI thing happen. We're part of it.
So as you go about your day, think about how you interact with AI. The data you share, the algorithms you use, it all matters.
And if you want to dive deeper into all of this, be sure to check out the links to the paper and the code down in the show notes.
Yeah, let us know what you think. This is a conversation we all need to be part of.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AI cooperation. Until next time, stay curious. The future of AI is in our hands.